All right. Hello, everyone, and thanks for taking the time to attend this pre-construction meeting regarding 377-381 Winona Avenue. My name is Alice Fife, and I'm a relatively new hire in Councillor Leeper's office, and I help manage the planning and development files in the ward, as my colleague Steph, who many of you already know, is now helping Jeff with the citywide planning files that come with his role as chair of planning committee. Fortunately, as you know, Steph is here with me tonight, and we also have the applicant, Azur, and their team here as well. I'm sure everyone in attendance tonight is familiar with the development plans for this site, but I'll just provide a little refresher as just a reminder of what has been approved and what it will entail. As many of you know, the approved site plan features a 6-story mixed-use building with 2 ground floor commercial units and 60 dwelling units in the upper stories above. It's located at the southeast corner of Winona Avenue and Picton Avenue, just north of Richmond Road. There will be 1 level of underground parking with 18 residential and visitor parking spaces, and bicycle parking is proposed along Winona Avenue and within the building. In terms of tonight and the format of the meeting, Azur will offer a short presentation on the proposal, and in terms of the materials we can expect to hear about, it will include things like anticipated start dates, timeline information for each section, such as excavation and pouring, truck traffic routes, construction staging, and any anticipated impacts on sidewalks and roadways, mitigation measures for blasting, such as soundproofing, and of course, ongoing communication. The applicant will also hopefully indicate who residents can call on site if there is an issue, and whether construction updates to the neighbors will be provided, and if so, how residents can sign up. Then after the presentation, we'll jump into an open forum Q&A, seeing as it's a very small group, and that'll give the neighbors an opportunity to ask some further questions. Before we do get started with the presentation, I just want to start us off with a couple of housekeeping items. First of all, the presentation is being recorded and it will be posted on the Kitchissippi YouTube channel by probably early next week. And anyone who could not make it tonight can review the recording there, or anyone here, if you want to look at it later, you can do so. And if you need the link, please just feel free to write our office for that, or you can search Kitchissippi Ward on YouTube and you'll find it directly. As I mentioned, because we're a smaller group tonight, we'll take verbal questions, and we would ask that you use the raise hand function on Zoom to indicate when you want to ask a question. And just to note as well, anyone who'd prefer not to ask a question verbally may still ask it directly using the chat function. And if you don't want to be recorded on video, please feel free to turn off on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. So with that, I will hand things over to Azur for their presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Alice and Steph, for organizing this. I think I've talked to Gail and Judy before, and we haven't met in person, but my name is John Thomas. I'm the owner of Azur. We're actually developing at the end of Winona as well as Scott and Winona. We love the neighborhood. We're really happy with this project. It's a bit of a labor of love for us. It's a small boutique type residential apartment building with a nice little restaurant on the ground floor. We love it so much that we're actually putting our headquarters on the ground floor as well. So we're going to be neighbors hopefully for many years to come. Alice did a good job describing what we're building there. I won't go too far into that because I think we have had a meeting before describing the project and sort of, our philosophy as developers. I live in the neighborhood, so it's very important to me that we build stuff in Ottawa and in Westboro in particular that adds to the flavor of the community, and we're very proud of this one. I'm going to let my construction team run with this. Dan Belcourt, who's our director of construction, you got Paul Duguid as well, who's our site super.
Hey.
Kevin's our money guy, he's our director of finance, and Richard Gurnham, of course, who's the CSV, our architect. So why don't you guys, Dan, why don't you take it away, and I'll jump in if you need me, but otherwise I think you guys are in great hands with the team that's actually building this building.
Okay, thanks, John, for that. And Alice, thank you for the introduction. I've known John for quite a few years. In the last recent year, John approached me about this dream of his at Winona, and very happy to be working with him on this project. Involved in the 2070 Scott Street as well. I've listened to some of the concerns of the neighbors in the neighborhood, and we're trying to keep a good relationship and keep everybody informed of what's going on. So a lot of work goes into getting some permits to put up a building, as everyone knows. And tonight, we get to move on to the next phase, which is construction, which is obviously my passion and Paul's passion. So very happy to be able to get started with that. And if you don't mind, I'll share my screen here and have a small PowerPoint presentation. Just let me know when you can see that. I think we're all good there. So this morning we have a small drone that we use. Some of us are afraid of heights, so we kind of throw a drone up in the air, get an overview of the site. And this is what it looks like today. We removed some brick on an existing home, trying to repurpose as much as we can, leave stuff out of landfill. So we'll be using some of the existing brick inside our commercial space. We have some site fencing set up right now and getting ready to do some demolition. On my little presentation here, if you don't mind, I'll go through. I only have a few slides, kind of hitting all the points that Alice spoke about earlier, and we'll have a Q&A at the end. So let me just do this here. So John was kind enough to introduce the project. And I think everyone knows what the building is going to look like from the corner of Picton and Winona. So our first slide talks about our site setup. The red contour that you see is going to be our site fencing, which a good portion of it is up already. There's some trees that we need to remove, which is going to happen tomorrow. And on Picton Avenue, you can see a spot here where we're going to have a C-can and a couple of portable toilets for the men working on site. This will be our entrance into the project, an area here for power and transformer. We'll have a man gate or a person gate over here. Eventually, our sidewalk will be covered once we do start the demolition, and we'll reroute traffic to the other side of Winona temporarily. Hopefully, that'll only be 6 or 7 months. Adjacent to our property, there's a building where we have our temporary office. So we've leased it off of the current owners. Our office is in here. We welcome the community to come and see us. If you have questions, just come knock on our door. It's outside of the construction zone, so it'll be easy access for you to come and see us with any of your concerns. We also rented this parking area, which we plan on using for our staging area, try and mitigate and keep trucks and traffic off of Winona. There are some overhead power lines on Picton Street. Our crane will be located in the east property line. Show you the next slide here, which pretty much gives you the radius of our tower crane, which passes over Winona. We do have limit switches on the crane, so it doesn't swing and disturb the community. Our pickup point, again, like I was saying, would be over here in this area. And occasionally we will be picking off of Picton. We're just going to try and limit the congestion on Winona. My next slide. Maybe Paul's our superintendent. He can perhaps talk about our traffic and our access in and out of site.
Certainly, all of our deliveries coming in off the highway, whether it's concrete or materials for our site, will typically be taking off at the Maitland Ave exit off the 417, heading down to Carling, where they turn right and head over to Churchill. turning left on Churchill, will come right down to Richmond Road, and then a quick right and left onto Winona. They will be delivering anything they've got for our site. They will be turning around on the Picton Ave and then exiting the same way they came in.
Okay, good. Thanks for that. Next one, our construction schedule. We're a couple of weeks behind right now due to permitting and just trying to get organized in the best fashion. Tomorrow we do plan, we have a green light now to remove a couple of trees that are going to be within the building footprint. And then hopefully sometime next week, if Richard allows us with his contacts over at the city, a couple of items that are still outstanding from our side that should get resolved in the next few days, which means next week we should have some heavy equipment on site, finalize our erection of fencing, and our subcontractor will start removing the 2 homes. Total demolition excavation will run 6 to 8 weeks. If all goes well, we do have rock on the site. The first meter is overburden. It should be relatively easy to remove once the houses are gone and the foundations of the 2 homes that take up a major portion of the site. We'll start with some rock blasting. Probably it's in the neighborhood of 3 meters of rock that needs to be removed. And we think we'll have that done in about 5 to 6 weeks total. We did hire a third-party consulting firm to come by, go through the neighborhood, spoke to the neighbors. Some homes we gained access to photograph existing conditions. Just to keep everything in line with rock blasting. I know, it could be concern to some people, but it's actually a very safe operation. It should not be too disruptive over the 5-6 week time frame. Once that's completed, in the month of August, our concrete structure should begin, and we're looking at 4 to 5 months for that. So by the end of January, provided we don't have too much of a harsh winter, we should be done the overall concrete structure, and the tower crane will be removed at that time. And it's just a simple fit up for 60 units, and we're hoping to have the entire project completed sometime in Q4 of 2024. Again, if we go back to a pre-blast survey, it would seem that most of the question revolve around that and what the process is. Paul, did you want to speak to this?
Oh, as Dan had mentioned, we hired a third-party consultant that they've already completed the pre-blast survey. They've gone around, talked to the homeowners within the blasting radius, taken pictures of homes and the surrounding areas to make sure that everything stays in the same condition that it is when we're done. And again, we are insured if by chance or in an off chance that anything is damaged from our blasting. We obviously are insured and will take full responsibility for any of the repairs if it ever comes about. We don't expect any damages, but it's always a possibility, but we try to minimize anything from a standpoint of damaging any property surrounding.
Okay, and then we do have a subcontractor who will perform this work, and the procedure for that, Paul, I think you touched base with them today.
Yes, the way the blasting takes place, I'm sure you guys, if anybody's in the area, will hear some horns going off. We basically have some whistles. 5 short whistles will be distributed out loud so everybody can hear them 1 minute prior before blasting, and as they're about to blast, they will shout out 3 short whistles immediately before the blast. Once the area is clear and safe to return for the workers, there will be 1 long blast, which lets everybody know the area is safe and clear, ready for return to work.
Sounds good. So our on-site work hours, generally speaking, our project will be Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. We're hoping to be wrapped up by 6 p.m. Although there may be some activities that would run later, pouring concrete or framing, all depends on weather. But generally speaking, everybody has families, so they come to work at 7, go home at 4 or 4:30. There's always a few stragglers that are trying to complete their tasks for the day. And try not to work on weekends, but there will periodically be weekend work, and we'll just try to honor a no work Sunday. We thought we'd finish off with this slide. Unfortunately, I didn't know what it meant, but the young team that we have here at Azure thought it would be funny to put on here, better call Saul. I said, well, what's that? It's not Saul. You made a spelling error there. It's Paul. But so there we go. We call Paul if anybody needs anything in the neighborhood. Feel free to take a snapshot of the slide. Paul's here every day. His email is shown on the screen, and his phone number as well. Obviously, Paul has a family as well, likes to go home, but our number one priority here is to make sure that everybody on site in the neighborhood is happy with what we're doing, and we're hoping that at the end of the day, when we're done, people can walk around and say, that builder did a good job. There was not too much disruption. There always will be during construction, but hopefully we bring some sort of improvement to the neighborhood as well. So that's our presentation, and we're open to have some questions and try and answer them as best we can.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's see. Does anyone want to, Gail, I see your hand up. Do you want to go ahead with your question?
Oh, sure. So I'm Gail, the neighbor across the street. I do have some concerns about the traffic flow for the trucks. I understand that your project at the bottom of the street has the same traffic flow. You're supposed to go up, the trucks are supposed to go up Churchill, but currently they have been going up Winona several times a day. Your trucks for the project at the bottom of the street. So it would be nice if you would let them know. I've already mentioned it to the city, and they sent an email to you, and nothing has happened, and they're still going up and down the street, including between 6 and 7 a.m., which is very disruptive.
Okay, so Gail, are you specifically talking about the project at 2070 Scott? So I think the road that Winona Street is closed off at that end due to limitations on Churchill and Scott. So I'm not sure that I haven't seen much traffic on Winona, but we can certainly talk to our managers down at 2070 and see what the issues may be there.
So I work at the front of my house. The windows and right in front of my office desk, and I see them going all the time. And they should be turning on the street. I'm not sure of the street, but before when the first street that you get to, the cross street, and go on to Churchill, they shouldn't be going up Winona. And I know that for this project, that is a requirement as well, like the traffic flow.
Okay, well, we can certainly look into that and ask some questions and see what's going on. And obviously, it's difficult to get permits in the area as far as traffic flow and encroachments. So we don't want to lose those encroachment permits. And the only way not to lose those permits would be to follow the regulations that have been imposed. So for sure, Gail, I'll make a point of looking into that tomorrow, and we can get back to you on that, and always keep a open line of communication there.
Yeah, it's mostly the Tomlinson trucks going up and down. Can I ask another question?
Sure.
I wonder if the properties across the street, if you had an inspection for any hazardous materials?
We did. That's been completed and there was some minimal asbestos. And the abatement was taken care of and removed, and we've got all the agreements stamped and everything by the city and the third party that did the investigation.
So they've already been removed. It's already been removed
Correct, yes.
before you had a permit to start.
No, no, the condition of getting a permit, Gail, was to have the abatement done. So we had a company come in, do an assessment. The report was provided to the city, and then we scheduled them to come in and do the abatement. It took them 2 days. It was a little bit of material, insulation and some floor tile and drywall. That company came over, everything's documented, photographed, and then that report of completion was sent to the city, which was a requirement prior to getting a permit for demolition.
Okay, and my third question, concerning the blasting, the Patterson Group, my last name too, with 1 T. They are your third-party engineering company, and I offered to have a vibration monitor put in my house across the street so they can monitor the blasting in the area. And I asked them if I could, have some kind of access to know if what the numbers were, and if the numbers have gone up, and they said they couldn't tell me anything. They said they could only disclose information to you, and I'm not allowed to have any access to it. That just seems odd to me. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I can comment. I think you might have to give me a data to find out exactly what was said and why that's the case. Azure has no problem sharing any information whatsoever. At the end of the day, we're responsible. So we'd like you to know what's going on, if there are any issues. I don't know exactly where all their monitoring devices are installed, but I can certainly look into that and share that information with you for sure.
Yeah, she said that whenever they're monitored 24 hours, and whenever the numbers go over a certain limit, then they are supposed to alert you to tell you that you've gone over the limit.
Sure. So no problem. We'd be more than happy to share that with you.
Okay, great.
Okay, Judy, I see your hand up. Did you want to go ahead with your question?
Yeah, my question is just around the access to Picton. I'm sure you guys have noticed the very busy parking lots with everyone coming back to the office. And just if there's going to be times when there's no access, sort of how that can be communicated, because I know I'm sure you'll be telling the landlord and they can notify all the tenants, but the BI also promotes that as the public parking for the neighborhood because it is a paid lot. So I'm just wondering if you anticipate that we'll lose access to that parking lot or those 3 parking lots.
Oh, I don't anticipate you'll lose access. There may be some disruption. And I would probably say for 2 days, the day the tower crane goes up and the day the tower crane comes down. So we will need a mobile crane on Picton Street to raise those pieces. But I doubt very much at any time Picton Street would be completely shut down. Same thing with our site servicing. We do have to dig up a portion of Picton to make connections, but the street will always remain open.
Okay, well, all the tenants will be happy to hear, because a lot of them we have a gym, we have a couple gyms, we have a dance studio, we have all these people who now have clients coming on site in that building, so they'll be happy to hear.
Okay.
Just on that topic, just to build on what Judy was asking about, how will you communicate, give a heads up to Judy and the neighbors, like when these disruptions might occur? Are you going to contact them directly? Would you like our office to help out on that, or what were you thinking?
Yeah, But Paul and I actually had a discussion about that today, and if there's anything major that's gonna disrupt the neighborhood, we would like to maybe just drop a quick note in everybody's doorstep or mailbox. And again, you know, we're gonna try and limit the amount of paperwork and notes that we are dropping off to everybody. Our policy is open door, so we're here. If anybody needs anything, just come and ask us. We want to be good neighbors. We want to get the project up and completed as fast as possible. But for sure, I think common courtesy is to advise everybody in the neighborhood if there are going to be disruptions.
So you guys you'll do that directly on your own.
Yes, and we'll advise you as well, Alice, if you need to be in the loop.
Yeah, that'd be great.
If I can just jump in, I think Steph knows that we've done that with Scott Street. On the occasions that we've had disruptions, we've emailed Councillor Lieber directly and said, listen, this is happening over the next 2 weeks. Just let you know, you might get some complaints. You know, we're here and this is what's happening. So everyone is at least aware of what's happening, but yeah, we like to be proactive.
Great, thank you. Tim, did you want to ask a question? Oh, you're on mute, Tim.
The first one is, where's the concrete pump gonna sit?
That's a good question. We're not entirely certain that we will be using a concrete pump. I'm sure on occasion it will be here. We do have the parking lot next to 377 where our current office is, so we may be able to stage it there. Otherwise, likely on Winona's, given the overhead wires on Picton. But to take full advantage of our tower crane, and because it is a small site, the bulk of the concrete will probably be poured with a bucket.
So prior to installing the tower crane, where are you gonna pump the concrete from? Like to pour the crane base, where will you pour the concrete from?
It'll most likely come off of Picton.
We don't have to worry about the overhead wires there because it is below grade for the crane base. So we'll just do a line pump down into that area. So from Picton, it will not interfere with the overhead wires.
So you won't need a concrete pump ever on Picton or Winona?
No, that's not what we're saying. On occasion, we will likely be using a concrete pump. We just have not worked out a detailed schedule of when we're pumping and when we're hoisting with a bucket. And Tim, you do make a good point. The first concrete being poured will probably be 5 truckloads for that concrete base, and likely it will be pumped.
Okay, so when on the occasions that you need a concrete pump, will you have to close Picton or Winona?
No.
No. Okay.
There will, I'll just elaborate on that a little bit. I do expect to be a lane closure in those areas, but not to close the entire street. We will have flagmen out to direct traffic going around. As far as the delay goes, you're looking maybe 1 to 2 minutes tops in getting around with two-way traffic.
Yeah.
And that's at a maximum. I can't see anybody being delayed any more than that, as we will have yield signs up and flagmen to control the traffic.
We don't foresee a full road closure on this project.
Okay, so the other question I have is like your laydown area. Where will that be? Is that supposed to be in the parking lot that you're gonna acquire to the south?
To the south, yes, that's correct. That'll be the bulk of our staging area. We also have encroachment up to the curb on Winona and the curb on Picton. And then the site is small. We have a small strip of land on the east side of the property as well. So we have been starting to plan with Belai, who will be doing the foam work, and we're sort of working out the details of the laydown area. We do realize it's tight, but I think we've taken all the measures to try and mitigate disruption on Winona and Picton.
Okay. I got a question for Alice. Alice, can you send me the persons from the city, like the construction management, traffic management person that approves the, the routing and all that other stuff? Can you send me their name?
Yeah, so you mean like the truck, like basically the truck
Yeah,
route and
yeah. There's a group that this is kind of all they do is help set up these traffic things for construction. And because my real big concern is that the project at Winona, Richmond, Churchill is going to be happening at the same time. So there's really going to be some congestion there. And I know, like we've already had their pre-construction meeting, and they've already said that they need Winona for an entrance in the rear, in the rear of the property, and that the city has already talked to them and said Churchill and Richmond are out. They can only use Churchill for an entrance and exit while they're doing some removal of shot rock and stuff, after the first stage is kind of started. So they've already said that they are going to be using Winona. They've already said that they have to set up their concrete pump on Winona and take up part of Winona, at least until they get to grade. So that's my concern right there. There's a conflict.
Actually, Tim, if I can, we said we would try to set up the concrete pump in the parking lot that we are renting.
Yeah,
Okay,
I know that.
Which
I know
is not
that.
on Winona.
I'm just talking about the people across the street from you. They've already recognized that and said that they have to do that because of the size of their project. So they're going to be also taking up part of the street. And so let's say there's a day when you need a concrete pump, or what's going to happen in those days. So I only really want to talk to this person to find out if they are communicating with the two projects. They understand that this one project is going on one side of the street, which is a major project, and the one, your project, to make sure there's not any conflict and that the street remains open, at least in one lane at all times.
Yeah, you're looking for the traffic control bylaw, which the gentleman in charge in this area, Alice, if I can just jump in here and tell you right off the top, Tim, his name is Paul Ryopel. He is the traffic control for the area. I'm in contact with him constantly with the encroachment permits and any road closure or lane reductions.
Okay, Alice will send me that guy's email.
Perfect.
And I'll contact him.
Sounds good, Tim.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that, Tim, for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Okay, next hand up, DW, you have a question?
Yeah, hi. David Warszawa,
Hi.
actually. I don't know why it says DW, but I also live across the street. I'm like Gail's neighbor's neighbor at 376.
Okay.
I just had a question, sort of, it's kind of touching on what Tim was sort of saying, because for that, the one at Richmond and Churchill, or Richmond and Winona, sorry, and Churchill actually, because they're closing off that kind of western part of the sidewalk on Winona, sort of for an extended sort of period. And then you guys also have the encroachment sort of on your sort of side on the, well, it would be the eastern side of Winona. So I'm just wondering, like from our house, like, is that basically mean that we, and then, they're taking over a lane sort of as well? Kind of, but they're saying that they can do two-way traffic, but we'll see sort of whether or not that's actually true. But I'm just sort of wondering, like for pedestrians and stuff, say for if I want to go to Richmond sort of from my house when both of these are sort of going on, does that mean I have to go all the way around? Because you guys have closed off both sides staggered, but also not connected. So it's kind of like a question for them because they're not in control. Like Azure is not in control of the one at the other sort of end and their permitting and sort of things like that. But just wondering if there's any coordination on that pedestrian sort of issue because it seems like we're going to get closed off.
Yeah, I'm not aware of their construction schedule and when they're starting. What I do know is our encroachment is limited to those two addresses in front of 377 and 383. So in essence, where we are right now, the parking lot and the building that we're leasing, there's no restriction on the sidewalk on the east side of the road. So let's say you're coming out of your home and they have it blocked off on your side of the street, you would have access to just cross over onto this side. We do anticipate that sometime in January, we're not going to need that area anymore.
Okay, cool.
So 4 to 5 months for our concrete structure, and then things should start to open up again.
Okay, because I think that they're sort of at the other one. I mean, they're not going to start I think their demolition or anything like that until September or October, which I would anticipate means that they probably don't do a lot of excavation in the winter. So they might not start for a while. So I think that theirs might be okay. And I think that they may sort of close off the sidewalk during some of the demolition just for a couple days, just because of demolition.
Right.
So hopefully it just sort of lines up where they kind of stagger where they're not closed at both times or whatever. But then again, it's also the winter. So, but yeah. So I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Again,
the city probably
yeah.
be aware when they're permitting you guys. So
yeah, we're open to cooperate with them as well. Like, I'm sure as much as we want everything to run smooth, they do as well. So the least amount of disruption both of us can do in the neighborhood would be good. So our doors are always open there.
cool. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Judy, you have another question?
No, I was just going to say on the previous point, the BIA can help with the notification to all the businesses. We send an email every single week to all 300 businesses in the BIA. So anything that needs to go out, we can do. But also on these notes, and this is for you, Alice and Steph, and then for the Azure team, if you're coordinating these things and you need us to share on social media about like the sidewalk closures or the coordination so the general public knows, like we're very keen to share that and help because we want pedestrians to safely get around the neighborhood, and we want all of the staff from all the businesses to safely get from their cars in those 3 parking lots on Picton out onto the street and in having lunch in all the restaurants, right? Like I think that's what the end goal for all of us is. And it may just be having really good flag guys working on there. It's going to be a very busy street. And again, I asked this at CLV's pre-construction meeting, and I'll ask Alice and Steph again. Is the city going ahead with the infrastructure renewal next year as well on Winona?
As far as we know, yes, it's tentatively scheduled. But yeah, it is on the books. Yeah.
So all I would say is the city staff and hopefully Azure and CLV are able to hire the best flag guys in the business to be on there. Because you want someone who feels confident. It is a heavy pedestrian use street, and they won't get as much pedestrian use with this, but as someone who walks through there every single day, 3 or 4 times a day, I think we're all focused on the safety, and we're here to help communicate what's going on to everyone.
Agreed. Yep.
I was on mute for a second. Judy, I was just saying, as far as I know, the project manager that's sort of been put on board for the Winona renewal is kind of being looped in both for the CLB project, and that's been confirmed. I'm quite certain for here too. I think Paul has mentioned in the past that that's been sort of tagged. So I think it's already very much on everyone's radars, even if the dates aren't quite set, they're kind of leading up to the process, and hopefully that does mean a love flagman. But I mean, you know, as we're all talking about here, I think it's pretty recognized there's going to have to be a lot of coordination and a lot of being on the ball. I mean, I would kind of say that as early as, you know, an encroachment or a lane closure might be happening at that south end, it's going to probably be pretty imperative to get that in. Because
I'll be in constant communication with Paul Royalville.
Yeah, like I'm sure you know that, but I see the concerns here of, like, you know, even if it's a 1 day sort of encroachment that happens and then CLB is doing their concrete pour, like that's on alternating sides at that very end. And it's a worst case scenario. Worst case scenarios don't always come to be, but you know, of course, sometimes they do. And we'll see the neighbors
It just
affected
means the
by
whole
it. We'll
corner is
see
gonna be,
you guys. Yeah,
because it just means the whole corner is going to be gorgeous in a couple of years, and then
It
we'll be
will.
done with it all.
But all that to say, I know everyone's kind of in constant contact right now, and we can echo that as well.
Gail, do you want to ask another question or have a
Yeah,
comment?
just a quick question. I'm not that familiar with how blasting works. So is it standard that you have so many blasts per day, or is it going to change every day? And when does it start? When does it end? Can anyone answer that?
Yeah, it will, I'll jump on that one, sorry. It'll start, I mean, it's gonna depend on how the drilling is going and how the materials are. We're guessing at what's below there. But realistically, we're looking anywhere from 3 to 8 blasts per day. With a very good day of blasting would be 10, but highly unlikely we get that many blasts in a day. So the 3 to 8 on a day is what we're expecting to go through.
Would you start at 7 a.m. with the blast?
Not with a blast, but the prep work to get into that stage, yes, we would.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions or comments or concerns from anyone? Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. But having said that, if anyone has any comments or questions after the meeting, or you think of something tomorrow, please feel free to reach out to our office, and we're happy to relay those messages to Dan and the team. But with that, I'd like to say thank you to Azure for their presentation tonight, and also, of course, like to thank everyone for taking the time on this summer evening to attend tonight. And like I said, if anyone has any other questions that pop up after the meeting, please feel free to just email our office at jeff.leapier@ottawa.ca. And also just another reminder that we will have the recording up for this meeting in the coming days on the Kitchissippi Board YouTube. And if you do have trouble finding the link, please just shoot us an email and we're happy to share the link with you. And with that, I will say good night from Steph and I. And thanks again to everyone for attending, and have a good summer. I'm sure we'll all connect throughout the summer, but enjoy the upcoming summer weekend. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for your time, guys.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thank you.
bye. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.